The movie weaves together 5 distinct yet interconnected stories, all unfolding on the spooky backdrop of Halloween night. The opening scene sets the stage in a typical suburban neighborhood, where we meet Emma and Henry, a couple returning from a festive night out. Emma, donned in a robot costume, and Henry, channeling Flash Gordon, arrive at their home, their night of revelry winding down. As they approach their house, a point of contention arises between the two. Emma is eager to extinguish the light within a jack-o'-lantern, a decision that Henry, a strong believer in Halloween traditions, advises against. He insists that the decorations should remain intact until midnight, adhering to an age-old custom. Emma, however, is unmoved by this tradition, prioritizing the need to tidy up the yard for her mother's impending visit the next morning. Dismissing Henry's warnings, she blows out the candle, unknowingly setting off a chain of sinister events. Henry, whose affection for Halloween is undeniable, makes a compromise. He promises to dismantle the decorations early the next day, but Emma, skeptical of his commitment, begins to remove some herself. Meanwhile, Henry retreats upstairs, intending to create a romantic atmosphere for the remainder of their night. However, as Emma strips a ghost crow decoration of its sheets, the evening takes a harrowing turn. The decoration springs to life, engulfing her in a white cloth. Amid their struggle, Emma collapses on the sidewalk, drawing the attention of nearby trick-or-treaters. Under the cover of the sheets, a shadowy figure emerges, wielding a half-eaten, pumpkin-shaped sucker. In a chilling moment, the figure slashes Emma's throat, her blood seeping into the fabric. The horrified children flee as the assailant drags Emma's body back into the yard. Upstairs, Henry, unaware of the terror below, eventually dozes off. The television blares in the background, filling the room with its noise. Time passes, and Henry, growing concerned over Emma's absence, descends to the yard. There, he discovers a gruesome sight. One of the ghost crows is now eerily illuminated. Upon removing the sheet, he is met with a horrifying discovery. Emma's decapitated head impaled on a stake, the pumpkin sucker protruding from her mouth. The narrative then shifts, rewinding to a few hours earlier, giving a glimpse into the Halloween celebrations that are in full swing across the town. A parade snakes its way through the main street, alive with the energy of the night. Among the revelers, a mysterious figure blends in, dragging a burlap sack with a sinister dark stain at its base. The scene then transitions to Lori, a 22-year-old grappling with shyness and self-consciousness. She finds herself attending a Halloween party, somewhat against her will, accompanied by her older sister Danielle and 2 of Danielle's friends. While the others wear fairy tale costumes, Lori is relegated to the role of Little Red Riding Hood, a character she hates. Despite her reservations, her sister insists on this choice, viewing it as a tradition aimed at boosting Lori's self-esteem. In the quiet neighborhood, bustling with the energy of Halloween, we find a young, slightly overweight boy named Charlie. He roams the streets, engaging in mischievous acts like knocking over jack-o'-lanterns. His journey leads him to a seemingly deserted house. On the porch, he spots a bucket brimming with candy and a sign encouraging visitors to take just one piece. Overcome with greed, Charlie begins to stuff his bag with the sweets. However, his moment is abruptly interrupted by a startling presence, Principal Steve, who recognizes Charlie and calls him out. Principal Steve, with a knowing look, invites Charlie to sit with him on the porch for a chat. Meanwhile, in a different part of town, Lori and her group make their way through the Halloween festivities, drawing attention and gathering companions for the evening. Yet Lori, feeling out of place, decides to head to the party later, leaving her friends to enjoy their night. Back on Steve's porch, the principal offers Charlie a chocolate bar while lecturing him on the significance of respecting the holiday's traditions. As Charlie nibbles on the candy, he suddenly starts coughing violently. Principal Steve takes this moment to impart a crucial Halloween lesson: always check your candy. In a shocking turn of events, Charlie begins to vomit a mixture of blood and chocolate, eventually losing consciousness. In a frantic effort, Steve drags Charlie's body inside his house, inadvertently staining his shirt with the gruesome mix. His task is interrupted by the doorbell. At the door, he finds 3 teenagers, Macy, Sarah, and Chip, who request his jack-o'-lantern for their own use. Steve complies, offering them candy as well. The scene then shifts to Steve's backyard, where he attempts to dispose of Charlie's body in a large hole he had previously dug, already containing another child's corpse. As he works, his son Billy calls out from an upstairs window, eager for help with his jack-o'-lantern and excited to distribute candy. Annoyed, Steve dismisses Billy, urging him to wait inside. He also mentions a date he has later, when Billy inquires about their plans for the parade. The tension escalates when the neighbor's dog starts barking fiercely at the fence. Unsettlingly, the first child buried in the grave begins to moan, a clown-costumed arm reaching out from beneath dirty sheets. In a chilling act, Steve brutally severs the boy's finger with his shovel, tossing it over the fence to distract the dog. Mr. 𝐂𝐤, the dog's owner, confronts Steve about the bizarre noises and the foul smell, which Steve dismisses as a septic tank issue. Steve's activities continue. He delivers a lethal blow to the clown child with his shovel, putting an end to the child's suffering. He methodically buries the bodies in the grave he had dug in his backyard. As he makes his way back to the house, he notices his neighbor, Mr. 𝐂𝐤, frantically gesturing to him from across the street. Despite Mr. 𝐂𝐤's apparent distress, Steve chooses to ignore him and enters his house. Meanwhile, Mr. 𝐂𝐤 faces an unseen assailant and calls out for Steve's help, but to no avail. Inside, Steve's son, Billy, unexpectedly jumps out from behind the kitchen counter, startling his father. Billy eagerly asks for assistance with carving his jack-o'-lantern, much to Steve's irritation. With a butcher knife in hand, Steve follows Billy to the basement, where a table laden with carving tools awaits them. Billy excitedly suggests they carve a scary face this time. As Steve approaches the table from behind, he stabs something with his knife, revealing a ghastly sight. They are carving Charlie's severed head placed on a wooden turntable. Elsewhere, Halloween night continues. Macy, Sarah, Chip, and their friend Schrader wander through the neighborhood collecting jack-o'-lanterns. They arrive at the home of Rhonda, known degradingly as Rhonda the R-word due to her perceived intellectual disability. Rhonda, who is dressed as a witch, has decorated her yard with a stunning array of intricately carved pumpkins. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit alley, a young woman is locked in a passionate embrace with a masked man. The encounter takes a terrifying turn when she notices blood trickling down her body, caused by the man's affectionate bites on her neck. The man reveals his sinister nature, smiling with fangs exposed as the woman screams in horror. Panicking, the woman rushes towards the bustling street where the Halloween parade is in full swing. Emma and Henry, in their costumes, pass by but dismiss her as a drunken reveler covered in fake blood. They are unaware of the real danger as the fanged man follows her, envelops her with his cloak, and leaves her lifeless body propped against a building, making it seem as though she has simply passed out. Back with Macy and her friends, despite Macy's mocking attitude towards Rhonda, they politely request a pumpkin from her and extend an invitation for her to join them. Schrader, in particular, compliments Rhonda on her costume. As they journey on, Chip, who is dressed as a pirate, engages Rhonda in a conversation about Halloween's origins. The group eventually reaches an abandoned rock quarry. There, Sarah, dressed as an alien, questions the purpose of their collection of jack-o'-lanterns. Macy seizes this moment to share the chilling legend associated with the quarry, setting the tone for the next phase of their Halloween adventure. 30 years before the events of this fateful Halloween night, a heartbreaking and horrifying incident occurred at the rock quarry. A bus carrying 8 children with severe mental disturbances met with a tragic fate. These children, due to their behavioral issues, were chained to their seats for control. The bus driver, hired by the desperate parents of these children, had a dark mission: to rid them of their troubled offspring. However, their plan went sideways when one of the children, wearing a vampire mask, managed to free himself. In a state of confusion and longing for home, he hijacked the bus. His actions, however, led to a catastrophic mistake. He unintentionally drove the bus over the cliff and into the murky depths of the lake below. The driver miraculously survived the crash but disappeared into obscurity. The bus, along with the children's bodies, remained unrecovered, possibly due to the town's collective wish to erase this sorrowful chapter from their history. The narrative returns to the group of friends, who have now gathered 8 jack-o'-lanterns. Each pumpkin symbolically represents one of the souls lost in that tragic bus accident. With these pumpkins, their intention is to pay homage to those lost souls by leaving the pumpkins at the lakeside as an offering. As they approach a rickety old elevator, Macy, Sarah, and Schrader step in with their pumpkins, descending towards the lake, leaving Chip and Rhonda to wait for their return. Afterward, it's Rhonda and Chip's turn to descend. The atmosphere takes a chilling turn as they hear screams of panic and witness the eerie disappearance of the lights from their friends' jack-o'-lanterns, swallowed by the thick mist. Rhonda, displaying bravery, instructs Chip to stay put in the elevator with the remaining pumpkins, reassuring him of their protective power. She ventures out to investigate the source of the disturbing noises. Her exploration leads her to the haunting sight of the submerged school bus. She also sees her friends' masks eerily floating in the water. In a terrifying twist, she is suddenly ambushed by figures drenched in water and covered in chains. Overwhelmed with fear, Rhonda attempts to escape, but, in her panic, she accidentally steps on her glasses, causing them to break. Disoriented and unable to see clearly, she trips and hits her head on a rock, falling into unconsciousness. When Rhonda regains consciousness, she finds herself surrounded by the creepy figures. However, she soon realizes that the entire incident was a heartless prank orchestrated by her friends, who were disguised as the ghostly attackers. Schrader, feeling guilty, attempts to apologize to Rhonda, but Macy, unapologetic and insensitive, exacerbates the situation by carelessly kicking a lit jack-o'-lantern into the lake. As tension rises, whispers and giggles start emerging from the mist, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Schrader, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy, escorts Rhonda back to the safety of the elevator. However, their moment of calm is shattered when they hear the screams of their friends. Schrader leaves Rhonda to investigate, suspecting another prank. But upon rejoining the group, they are confronted with a terrifying reality. The ghostly figures of the 8 deceased children, still bound in their chains, emerge from the lake. The group is paralyzed with fear, and in a frantic scramble for safety, they rush towards the elevator. In a terrifying turn, Sarah is caught by a chain and mercilessly dragged away into the mist. In the harrowing climax of the movie, the remaining members of the group, Macy, Schrader, and Chip, find themselves in a state of sheer panic. They desperately reach the elevator, pleading with Rhonda to open the door and save them. However, Rhonda, appearing detached and in a trance-like state, coldly presses the button to ascend, leaving her terrified friends to their grim fate. The ghostly children, relentless in their pursuit, swarm around Macy, Schrader, and Chip. The air is filled with their screams as they are mercilessly torn apart by the vengeful spirits. Rhonda, undisturbed by the nightmarish events, calmly exits the elevator at the top of the quarry. She pulls her pumpkins in a red wagon, showing no signs of the trauma she just witnessed. As she makes her way out, she briefly crosses paths with Sam, who is sitting inside a cement pipe, observing the night's happenings with a silent, eerie presence. Rhonda continues her journey, leaving the quarry and its horrors behind. The scene shifts to the bonfire party in the woods, where Danielle stands isolated, consumed by worry over her sister Lori's safety. Despite attempts by the others to calm her, Danielle's anxiety deepens. She recalls their mother's words, describing Lori as the runt of the litter, which only adds to her concern. Meanwhile, Lori, walking alone on a dimly lit path in the woods, feels a presence tailing her. Frustrated and fearful, she demands the followers reveal themselves, but her call is met with silence. Suddenly, she turns to face her pursuer, the man with fangs. He grabs her, pressing her against a tree. With a sinister tone, he taunts her, My, what big eyes you have," before biting into her neck. Back at the party, a shocking moment unfolds as a body cloaked in red, identical to Lori's attire, drops from a tree near the bonfire. Danielle, filled with dread, approaches and uncovers the cloak, revealing not Lori, but Steve, the fanged man, now wounded and bleeding profusely. He weakly begs for help. Just then, Lori emerges, seemingly unharmed despite the blood on her neck. She approaches Steve with a peculiar, almost seductive air and straddles him. She reassures the onlookers, saying it's her first time, implying a sinister intent. The atmosphere at the party takes a surreal and terrifying turn as the other girls start to dance wildly. In a gruesome display, they tear off their human skin, revealing themselves as werewolves beneath. Their bodies are covered in fur, and their mouths are filled with sharp fangs. Laurie, in the midst of her own transformation, leans towards Steve and echoes his earlier words with a chilling twist. My, what big eyes you have," before attacking his neck. The newly revealed werewolves join the grisly feast, tearing into the remains of their dates, their howls echoing under the moonlit sky. In the distance, Sam, the mysterious observer, watches the carnage from his secluded spot on a log, silent and cryptic. On this Halloween night, Mr. 𝐂𝐤, who harbors a strong dislike for the holiday, engages in his own form of celebration. He dresses up his dog, Spite, in a frightful costume, intending to ward off any trick-or-treaters who might dare approach his home. Later, amidst the Halloween festivities, Mr. 𝐂𝐤 notices his dog barking furiously at his neighbor, Steve, who at that moment is secretly dealing with a body. The eerie atmosphere intensifies as Mr. 𝐂𝐤 discovers his lawn mysteriously covered with intricately carved pumpkins, their glow casting spooky shadows in the night. Venturing back inside, he finds his walls and ceiling marked with messages pertaining to Halloween and Samhain, adding to the night's unsettling tone. The tension escalates when Mr. 𝐂𝐤 is suddenly attacked by Sam, a sinister figure that seems to be a grotesque blend of a skull and a jack-o'-lantern. A fierce struggle ensues, during which Mr. 𝐂𝐤 manages to unmask Sam, revealing a horrifying face beneath. Despite Mr. 𝐂𝐤's attempts to defend himself, including shooting Sam multiple times, Sam miraculously reassembles himself. Sam wields a pumpkin-shaped sucker, which he has sharpened by biting, and uses it as a weapon. This same bitten sucker is later employed by Sam in his deadly encounter with 𝐂𝐻. After the confrontation, Sam leaves, and a bewildered Mr. 𝐂𝐤 watches him go. In a twist that ties past to present, burning photographs in the fireplace reveal a shocking truth. Mr. 𝐂𝐤 was the bus driver involved in the tragic accident many years ago. In the aftermath of his terrifying encounter with Sam, Mr. 𝐂𝐤, now bandaged and recovering from his injuries, tries to embrace the Halloween spirit. He answers the doorbell to distribute candy to unsuspecting trick-or-treaters. From his porch, he observes Sam heading towards the residence of 𝐂𝐻 and Henry, connecting to the events that unfolded at the beginning of the movie. As 𝐂𝐻 extinguishes a candle in one of her jack-o'-lanterns, we see Rhonda, still absent-mindedly pulling her wagon, returning to the neighborhood. In a narrow escape, a car carrying the werewolf girls almost collides with her. Meanwhile, Billy Steve, unaware of the fate that has befallen his father, sits on his porch, costumed to resemble his father, and continues the tradition of handing out candy. The night takes one final chilling turn as Mr. 𝐂𝐤 hears the doorbell ring again. Opening the door, he is confronted by the ghostly figures of the children from the tragic bus massacre, a haunting reminder of his haunted past. The encounter reaches a climax as the child wearing the vampire mask, one of the 8 from the bus accident, utters the iconic phrase, "trick or treat," extending his bag as if in a final, eerie request. The movie concludes on this haunting note, showcasing a sense of the inescapable past and the haunting traditions of Halloween. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.